we have a quorum. It is exactly 6:15. Well, it's exactly 6:14, and it just rolled 6:15. So, Ann Buck, it's your show.
Great.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Great to see you.
Thanks. Okay, so for 2014, we completed the townwide update. Approximately 103 billion were placed on the roll, roughly about 3%, and our level of assessment remains at 100%. We feel the questions and assisted roughly about 12,000 residents for the re-registration of the basic star exemption. As you know, Jackie Arns retired in October, and we just replaced, not her position, but we just replaced Augie Minio in a new position as the assessor's aide. Goals for 2015 are to put out a roll, assist our residents when applicable, and adhere to real property tax law. For 2014, goals completed for IT is Microsoft Office training was completed. Programs were put in place for new employees, and also to give computer training when it's beneficial to the department to existing employees. Toshiba of Rochester is our new print management company. New multifunctioning machines have been placed in court and rec department, and the old printer and faxes have been removed. The 2015 goal is to put technology into place for all of our boards. We will be starting to migrate map scan to IPS. That'll be done basically by the planning department. And we will be looking to utilize some interns this summer to attach the old maps into the IPS. We'll also be looking at our policies and our practices for our IT manuals. Thanks.
Short, sweet, and to the point, right?
Pretty much.
So I'm not going to let you off that easy.
Okay.
Well, you knew that anyways. So first I would like to take just a moment and recognize Ann. She's kind of taken the point at my request around the computer end of things. You know, Bob had it for a period of time. I thought it was important that we kind of kick that up a notch. Ann kind of oversaw a lot of the activity of change out of our hardware, getting ourselves up to 2013 with Microsoft, get everyone through training, and make that transition very smoothly. So, you know, Ann, I really appreciate all of those efforts to make that happen. And then one of the things that we've been working on, it seems like although the vendors have changed somewhat regularly, working on this whole issue of our printers and you know, being able to manage those. And we started off with a Xerox XSI, if I recall correctly, which went to Eastern, which now is with Toshiba. And the one thing we've learned is that all of them have some pluses, and most of them have a lot of minuses. And so we have learned through that, and Ann has remained kind of that steadfast, holding them accountable, and you know, making sure that that's all worked out very well. So I thank you for that, Ann. And I think it's just appropriate to know. You know, from an assessment standpoint, as Ann mentioned, Monday is the last day. And so essentially, you know, working on the exemptions and everything like that, and then the next steps will be putting all that together, getting ready for you know, the rolls to close and grievance day and stuff like that. So that comes up and will happen the last Tuesday of May, if memory serves me correct. So, so good stuff.
I
So,
was just
yep.
going
Go ahead.
to also compliment Ann and her staff. I spoke with her this morning. Was it this morning or yesterday?
Yesterday, that's,
I can't
you
keep
know.
track. I spoke with her yesterday, but when I had the opportunity to meet with the director of the Monroe County Veterans Service Agency, Ann's office in particular was singled out as being the top in the area as far as working with veterans and the veterans exemption. And so much so that it was asked of me to bring back to Ann and the town board that maybe there's an opportunity for Ann to sort of share her process, at whatever length that is, to kind of emulate in other towns throughout the county, because apparently the process that we have here in Penfield is very easy for veterans to understand. Whatever the letters are, the timing, as such, and some other towns in the area are having some trouble trying to, I think, consolidate and make their information as concise as possible. So thank you again for that, and I just wanted to share that.
No, that's great.
information.
That's great feedback. I appreciate
Yep.
that. And I know Ann, I don't know if this is the norm, but her office, especially around our seniors, does a lot of reach out. And so it's a twofold. I mean, make no mistake, the more that they're able to get that taken care of ahead of time, that's easier for her office. But the fact that they reach out and have that personal touch to the seniors, I know Anna helps out from time to time as it gets towards crunch time and trying to get those folks in, because obviously if someone misses, it's always our fault and never their fault, regardless of how many times we've reached out and tried to notify. But I think we've got a pretty good track record, to do that. And there's certainly a lot of seniors out there that may be confused, may not totally understand. So I think working with that senior population is really key and very positive overall. So.
And with the deadline coming up, can you just quickly walk us through, if a resident asks me, what happens when I go to the town hall? Where do I go?
What's this about?
The star exemption. What's the process that they go through?
Well, I mean, currently, our deadline of March 1, of course, is being filtered over to March 2, so that's Monday. Right now, for new exemptions, people who purchase homes, when they purchase under the law, we have to send them star exemptions, so they get star exemptions all through the year. I can't think of, possibly about 2 or 3 years ago, we reached out to the town-wide again with star, just to make sure that everyone that could be on it is on it. Last year, the state handed down a re-registration for everybody to make sure that that occurs. So what we really deal with at this time are renewals. And we are renewing the senior citizen exemption and the enhanced star exemption, which is for people who are 65 years or older. As Tony said, we do reach out to those people. We sent the applications because of Jackie's retirement. We sent them out in October this year. We usually send them between November, December. After we sent them out, we sent 2 mailings of postcards to everyone that we didn't have in yet. And we are now upstairs calling for the stragglers on our senior citizens, our agricultural exemptions, our nonprofits. So if someone's asking you, the deadline is March 1 and it's only for this year. If they miss that deadline, of course, they have the opportunity available to them the following year. So just send them, to our office and we'll take care of it from there.
So in the Dave Renners of the world that have lived in their house for 5 years, he's obviously under 65.
Right.
There's nothing going on.
Just
for
basic
him.
star. And
Yeah,
the
okay.
Dave Renner who moved in a few years ago got a notice from our office that this is your star exemption.
Right, okay.
And then last year, hopefully, you all got the call or the message or the missed message from state, which wound up being, although we were supposed to stay out of it, wound up, just causing so much commotion in our office.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
calls and trying to assist people, them getting mad at the town, but it was really, the state's whole deal. And now they're looking to make star an income tax credit. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Has everybody heard that? That is something that they're working toward. And so once you signed up, so the example you used with Dave Renner, until Dave clicks past that 65,
Right.
he pretty much doesn't have to do anything new unless he elected to sell his current home and move into the home across the street. Then that would then trigger something for him that he would have to do at that point. And seniors that are 65 and older have an annual requirement that they have to go through.
For the
They do.
enhanced star?
For the enhanced
Yeah,
star, it's an
okay.
annual requirement, but you can sign up for what's called an IVP, and that allows us with some additional information to put them into a state database. Once they do that, they are automatically renewable at the state level as long as they file a New York State income tax return. The state then goes through and justifies whether they are going to receive it, whether they're going to be denied based upon income, or whether, and usually this happens to people who own business, become undeterminable. That gets handed back to us, and then I have to make a judgment call on whether they get it or not.
So is it recommended that those folks go on that list and then just then they don't have to worry about it? They don't have to worry about going to Florida and forgetting about it or anything like that? They
Right.
can just let it go through their income taxes?
During the update last year, we did a mass mailing to all our enhanced star exemptions. with the IVP, giving them the opportunity to do that. And when they come in the door, these days, we always offer that opportunity.
Okay, any questions for Ann? All right, Ann,
All right.
thank you. Thank you very much, we appreciate it. See you tomorrow.
Yep, good night.
All right, very
Thank
good.
you.
We'll move on to our friend, Ms. Zealy.
Okay.
So,
In short, it's business as usual, and I don't need anything. I don't need to spend any money. Continuing to support external and internal communications, and as Tony asked me to do, and using the right tools for the right job at the right time is really what we do all day long. I continue to serve on the Energy Committee. We just had our meeting, second one from 2015. And I spend much of my day in attending meetings, listening to see who's doing what, and are there any communication opportunities that are going to help residents understand what's going on at Town Hall. We did more communications with DPW this year. The year before, we did some direct oil and stone letters and things that kept the complaint levels way down. In fact, they didn't get any phone calls that year. So this year, we did the same thing for Baird Road and a few other projects, and I think it kept some of the incoming phone calls down, and the calls that did come in just wanted finer points clarified. They weren't, what are you doing and why are you doing it kind of calls.
yeah, it really did make a difference. We were doing something that nobody likes. I mean, oil and stone, nobody likes it. I mean, I don't care who you are, they just don't like it. And we went from getting, I don't know how many hundreds of calls we would get in DPW down to, you still get some grumbling, but the calls essentially have gone away. And we've just told them this is, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and it has been
When.
And when.
and it's been a godsend.
Yeah,
So
people will accept information that they may not like if they feel they're being communicated to. So
Yeah.
it's keep it coming and be frequent, be honest, and people also want to enjoy better roads. So it's a give and take.
Well, they'd rather spend, that incremental amount for oil and stone than, whatever that difference is, 6, 8, 10 times, going through a total repave, so I
It'll
want,
take
I
longer.
want good roads, but I don't want to pay the big price either, so.
And you're on track for if the county or state decide to do something, like the state repaving 441?
Yeah, that
and
gets
put something
gets
else?
through too, and we get that out, and like take the message and triage it through. That's a good column topic, or let's put this on social media. We're gonna do a special message. There's always that hierarchy that we're looking at. I'm on the wellness committee, and there's always activity going on with that, and communications that are mostly internal. But we've also, some of the communications we've developed for our employees have been borrowed through other towns in the consortium. They've reused some of that stuff. And I'm on the Mixed Use District Committee and have spent the last several weeks working with planning, essentially rewriting the manual. And we cleaned it up a lot. We identified our audience and stuck to it, and really organized it and made it tight and took out some of the redundant information.
This is the definitions it's on for mixed use, not the mixed use districts committee. Is this something else?
It's the support to the ordinance.
Yes.
So there's the ordinance, and then
Right.
this is a document that a developer, a town employee, a planner, a board might look at to say, what are the criteria? What did we mean by that? What are the standards? So that's, we're in the final volleys, I think, with the consultants right now. So no changes to personnel, expenses, or specialized support. I don't need to go to any conferences, unless you think of one that you think we should go to. I work closely with the planning department, as I just said, with mixed use, the wellness committee, and the energy and advisory committee. And let's see, 2014. the day-to-day kinds of things. We have weekly and daily tasks, all the regular communications. Let's see if there's anything different. Oh, worked with building inspector and the PR team. We put together some new communications to try and address the temporary sign spring. It's like the dandelions come up and then all the signs come up and it starts creating havoc with people. But we created some new tools. And, oh, this year I worked with Lynn Ann on an application for the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. They had a Culture of Health Prize. We jumped in on that within, I think, 30 days of the deadline. So we actually did put together a pretty good application. We did not get chosen, and when you see the communities that did, they were probably working on their application for the whole year, which we could have the benefit of doing this year. We got a really good nugget, and we got some nice content that we can reuse probably in different places that describe Penfield, its history, its strengths, and how we work with it's. The prize is awarded to an entire community, not to an agency or an entity. So we really were submitting the application, but on behalf of how the food shelf works with the churches and the town works with. So we had to do a lot of digging, and so it was an interesting process, but now we have some good content and we can
That's some good foundation.
Yeah, we can look for
Do
another
they
way.
give you any feedback when they, you return
They-
your application or anything like
They
that?
don't, because there's so many, but they put out a summary feedback for you to measure yourself against.
okay.
But they said that there was just too many communities that apply for that. And then my last accomplishment was something I've just been working on myself. I completed a certificate in gerontology through St. John Fisher and Lifespan, mostly just because I've got so exposed to all of that through my caregiving for my parents, and I wanted to formalize what I was being exposed to, and it helps me everywhere I go actually, but in the workplace it helps me be a little more aware of our older residents and their issues, and we discuss how will this affect, within the residents there's multiple audiences, and so it just makes you more alert, and there's things we're doing really well, and there's lots more opportunities to serve our residents. So
Very good.
that's the highlights.
Cool. You want to share the good news with the board, from what we heard this afternoon, and what our most recent activity
Well,
was?
We like good news.
It looks like the bill is going to the floor tomorrow at the state senate with the with Rich Funke's act, and looks like it's going to be a go, right?
So they reached out for a quote for me to include as part of their release once it, so very
Yeah, we
positive.
submitted a quote today.
So we
It's
did.
an appreciative and thankful quote
Yeah,
for how
absolutely.
fast all that went down.
response.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was pretty excited about that.
So looking forward to, maybe having that piece of information as part of our hearing for next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, it sets it up nicely. so-
all's good.
so-
So, all right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Phyllis. Thank you,
You're
thank you.
welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to Mr. Tet.
Of course, as you all know, we have building, fire department, fire, marshal's office, code enforcement, and zoning. I'm going to touch bases on all four of those topics. It's a very busy year. 2014 was a very busy year for the building department. At one point this past summer, we were behind 80 permit applications. Everything from fences to decks to homes to swimming pools. So we need and will stay on top of that this coming spring into the summer, and that will not get out of hand. I mean, it was to the point this past summer, as you know, we're just reacting, and we're 4 weeks behind in getting a permit approved or an application approved. Unacceptable. So we will continue to work towards closing that gap. I think 2 weeks is acceptable in our busy time. It got out to 3, it got out to 4, and then it even crept a little bit more, and at which point I had a conversation with the supervisor, and we took some steps to remedy that. The Fire Marshal's Office continues a progressive promotion of life safety in the town. And again, one of my mantras, one of the things I've always told you since I've been here, it's important that people who live here, work here, and visit here are safe in this town. And that's kind of the mantra of what I like to see the Fire Marshal's Office stand by. We continue to work with new inspections, which are starting to come in now, believe it or not. We're a week behind right now getting things out, so made some changes. What used to go strictly through the building department, building inspectors to review, now with the hiring of a new part-time or full-time assistant fire marshal, I've been able to take on some of these plan reviews myself and start to look at decks, swimming pools, fences, things of that nature that we can cut out of the building department and have them concentrate on some of the big stuff. We do have some big projects in the works right now. Southpoint Cove is a big project. We will be building New Hampton Inn, as you know, on Panorama Trail, and that'll be a big project. And the Southpoint Marina is going to come this spring, will be coming around, so that'll be a big project. So we do have some big projects on the books that'll be happening here in Penfield. Exciting stuff, I think. Good stuff for the town. We continue to use IPS, Integrated Property System, which is very important to us and continues to function at a high level, works very well for us. I'm very happy for that it continues to work very well. So that's some of the stuff. Myself personally, I will be transitioning into a role of Penfield Safety Coordinator with the retirement of Mark DeFrancesco, so I'll be taking on that additional role. And right now, Mark and I are working together. He's kind of breaking me in on some of that stuff, which is fine.
And just so you know, Mark has been very upfront to say that he's looking at the June-July timeframe to go on to his next chapter. So to his credit, he's been going around working very closely with things like Tom and safety, Mark Valentine, with some of the engineering projects that he was doing on behalf of Jeff. Some of the work, obviously, with the Parkview White Village sewers and things like that. So he's making sure every I's dotted and T's crossed before he leaves, which is obviously, you couldn't ask for, better support there, so.
Okay. Let me say this about one thing. There are 2 things that I'm going to ask for this year, and they're difficult things for me to ask for, but the first one I want to identify a problem that we've had in our town. Penfield Code Enforcement, that's Andy Sebagus. I think you all know Andy. Currently has 406, this is winter now, 406 open unresolved complaints. In the past 12 months, he addressed 297 new complaints, 303 complaints were filed and closed. He made 31 appearances in Penfield Town Court, made 513 site visits. He's overwhelmed. He's really, really overwhelmed. And this equates directly to the quality of life in this town. It really does. And so I had a discussion with Andy today. I mean, Andy, what are you addressing? You're a one-man show right now. What are you addressing? The squeaky wheel. So who complains the most is who's going to get the most attention. That's not what he advertises, but that's what he has to address. So, with that said, I'm going to ask the board to consider a part-time employee to assist Andy with inspections. I've had a long discussion with him about this. It's more than something that he can use. It's something the department can use. I've tried several different ways to handle complaints. I've tried handing them off to the building inspectors. Give me 10 complaints a week from the 3 of you. It's just not working, guys. It's just too difficult to keep up with. It buries him. It buries that part of the department. So code compliance is a very difficult thing. Yet, in my opinion, it relates directly to the quality of life in this great town. It does. So I'd like you to consider, and I've had this discussion with the supervisor, I'd like you to consider thinking about a part-time employee for Andy. Maybe seasonal, maybe not. I mean, right now, he's sitting on 406 open, unresolved cases, and this is the dead of winter. Wait till summer comes. We start getting the high grass and weeds, the junk cars, the this, the that, all starts coming back up again.
But you don't think your other building inspectors could pick up some of what he...
We have handed out some of that. That's a great question. We have handed out some of that, and it's just, well, as I told you earlier, they were behind 80 80 permits. They are working with him now to try to get that number down, and it's down to 406. It was up to over 500.
So they're doing all the permits and they're behind doing their permits. They can't assist Andy with his code compliance because they're busy with the permits?
Well, I've got Tom Alexander, who's one of our building inspectors, and I've got Harold Morehouse working on plan review, working on inspections, and then I've got Andy doing his thing, and he's kind of out there on an island by himself, and it's very difficult for him to do that. And then I've engaged the fire marshal's office, which includes Jeff, David, and myself, to kind of get out there in the field and investigate some of these complaints to try to close that loop, close that down a little bit. It's, as you can see, we're not being that successful. We're hard pressed.
When during the busy time, I mean, when we were 80-plus building permits deep, and many of them very complicated. So you had the YMCA. I mean, so when you have the YMCA plans come in, that may take up to 2 weeks to review, to go through all the details, check for the codes. You know, we may have to go out from time to time and check with MRP or Labella on some things that we may not have all the details on. If it's sprinklered, then it requires Tom or Jeff David to become more involved. So I mean, some of those, you know, are pretty detailed. Obviously, the shed, come in for a shed, and if it meets setback and all that other stuff, you can knock that off pretty quick. But some of the larger projects, so as they got you know, deep into those projects, they weren't able to take as many support from Andy, you know, to check on tall grass, to check on this, to check on that, and so then it all falls to Andy. So they can help a little bit more this time of year, but as the permits start to ramp up, that we get into that vicious cycle again. So, you know, and we hate to say this, but you know, and we don't necessarily advertise it, but you know, we try to take things as they come in, but as you all know, every once in a while, you know, something kind of gets pulled from this slot up to here, and you know, we have to try to deal with it as best we can, because our goal is not to have all of those calls come your way. I mean, you'll get a certain number, you know, about, you know, the way the grass looks or the way, you know, the house might look or something like that, but we try to keep those to a minimum that come out to you.
Yeah.
Would you have code compliance part-time? Would you envision maybe somebody retired from doing that or something?
I envision anybody I can get who's qualified to do the
Be
job,
hard
to be
to-
honest with you, Linda.
Well,
That's my
I mean,
honest opinion.
You don't want seasonal, you want somebody with experience.
I really would, and I think there's people out there that can do that. I have quite a few contacts in the county.
Well, and someone with experience can still be seasoned, because seasonal.
Of course they can be, I mean, but
Or per diem or something.
I need
like that.
somebody who can give me 20 hours a week. That's what I'd like. That's really what I'd like. Somebody who can give me 20 hours a week, and maybe they don't want to work that many hours. So maybe they're working through the busy season, 20 hours a week, and then they fall off come the slower part of the year, perhaps.
Okay.
That's something that all has to come up in discussion yet. It's still up there in the cloud. So, I'd like to this year, there's two things I'm asking for. I asked you first to consider a 20-hour part-timer. The second thing I'd like you to consider is transitioning the zoning department, zoning board, and actually my department to tablets this year. I'd like, we are behind, in my opinion, the zoning board and the building, fire marshal, code compliance is behind on technology. I know planning's been, I think, 6 years, maybe, David, with
It's been longer
laptops?
It's been a little longer than that.
Little
because
longer than that?
I've been
So,
here
and
5, and it's been-
And in our busy time of year, we hand out stacks of paper, we're making copies, 6 copies that thick.
Yeah.
It's not the technology that's out there today, folks. I just don't see that. I see us as being more proactive, progressive, and getting this done and getting this into tablets. I know it's going to meet resistance, but change always meets resistance. But I know, I'm 63 years old and I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready for change. You know,
Is this the, I'm sorry, for who would be using these?
I'm thinking of zoning board.
Zoning board?
And I'm thinking-
DeWaz is gonna have a fit.
He's already been water dripped. He's already been water dripped a little bit, so.
We've been starting to
Waterboarded?
Water dripped. No, not waterboarded.
If you're gonna waterboard, I'd like to see that.
No, I'm not going to do that.
that.
So, we've already started to kind of get the feelers out on those kind of things. I've already talked to my inspectors, you know, the fire marshal's office, code compliance, the field building inspector, and I want them to get used to using our IPS program on tablets. But, you know, when I can take something out in the field and look at it, instead of a big pad wad of paper, and I can look at something like this and look at a piece of property and look at this and maybe move this over here, maybe increase that there, pinch and zoom, whatever, if you're familiar with a tablet. To me, that's the way to
And is there
go.
capability through the tablet to do the forms and to in the field to fill out
Yes.
what needs to be filled
Yeah.
out?
Yes.
And then that to
Integrated-
me, I think, is more the time saver than.
Right.
and-
Integrated Property Systems is now tablet-based, and I've waited for this.
Yeah.
For
No,
3
I
years.
think it
I've
makes
waited
sense.
for this, and it's finally come around. And we were one of the first towns that saw the demonstration from them. Matter of fact, I went out to Victor to see it. They sponsored a small program, so I went out to Victor Town Hall and saw them. And I'll tell you, it was neat, guys. It really was.
Yeah, there's technology in inspection reports for tablets
Yeah.
and stuff like that is just
Yeah. And then
phenomenal.
you just-
This is not
Come
the
back and
future.
download it
This is
and-
today. This is
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
future. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about the future.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what's going on today. So it's important to us. It really is. And I think it'll shorten up our curve.
Yeah.
That means my inspectors don't have to come back at 3 o'clock, 3:30, and sit down and do all their paperwork that they've done all that. They can do that
Yeah,
right on the spot, in their pickup truck, right on the job. Any questions? Let's put it on right now.
Yeah.
That'll shorten that curve. And it'll shorten that stack of paper
Right.
that we're giving each zoning board member to look at, to go through, and to do. So this is my second request.
All right, Tom, if you get Carol Mulcahy to sign off on it, you got my vote.
I don't know if I can do that or not.
Very diplomatic.
That was as diplomatic as you can
My
get.
priority would be certainly the inspectors, you know,
Yes,
as far as
definitely.
they get first
Important.
dibs on
Yeah.
the use of the electronic tablets to do their work.
Yeah, it's out there right now.
I
It's
think
being
almost
used.
imperative.
I think if we look at it, I think you're right, Paula. I mean, you know, as we wade into this potential pool, I think we have to take a look at where we're going to get our biggest value from, you know. So if we're collecting a lot of data, handwriting a lot of data in the field for inspectors, and they're only coming in and then taking what they wrote and then putting that into the system, you know, does that make sense? Or kind of, you know, if they're able to put it in right there on site. So I think those are the types of things that we have to look at and weigh, you know. So the price of the tablet, obviously the cost of, you know, connection. I mean, all those, you know, your monthly
Comes with a
fees and
cost.
things. So
It
it comes
does
with a
come with a
cost. and we
cost.
just-
Without initial upfront cost.
It does come with a cost. It comes with an operating cost too, Paula, to be honest with you. But if I'm an inspector in the field and I want to pull up a set of plans, I can pull it right up on my tablet
Yeah,
and take a look and see, is he building this to spec?
Yeah.
Is he really?
yeah.
I can do that right on my
And being
tablet.
able to transmit accurate information so that there's not that time lapse where I've gone out and done 6 inspections,
Mhm.
I'm gonna come back to my office and I think I remember that
Mhm.
shed was, you know, so the accuracy is
Mhm.
probably better.
Mhm, Much more. And these
Absolutely.
tablets also have the opportunity to take photographs too, if you need to document something with a photograph. You know what old George Eastman used to say, a picture's worth 1,000 words.
But as far as zoning board, do they still get the big packets already?
They do, and that's what I'd like to get rid of. That's really what I'd like to get rid of.
There's other ways, we don't get the big packets anymore, because most of the stuff, you know, we have iPads, we have laptops, we
Understood.
have desktop. And so you can read the, you know, we have the stuff
Understood.
tonight, but we already have that, so if we don't need the big packets. They
Understood.
don't need the big packets either. Like, they could do a similar thing that we've been doing.
That's the way I envision it.
And then have like a big map or
I
something
mean,
that
at least
night, but
the email.
for everybody to share
Mm-hmm.
or something, but yeah, to read, no, those big bulks, we shouldn't have to
Well, some of the
send
other
all that.
things that I think we heard from Mark Valentine when he was here, I think Mark was here last, no, he was 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
or 2 sessions ago. He had talked about, you know, doing a lot of the application forms online. You know, so, you know, if an engineer or a homeowner or a developer, they can go in, they can grab what they need for, you know, the planning board or, you know, an incentive zoning or a rezoning. I mean, so they're working through, you know, getting that stuff up and then having more electronic filings. And then the engineers, like Jess out here, you know, a lot of the things that's part of table stakes these days is to have electronic filings. So I think as we've learned from the planning board, certainly look to, you know, kind of push that to the ZBA, and then again, that should be, you know, table stakes ultimately to do that. You know, so we do have some members that might, you know, push back a little bit, but I think getting away from just this multiple copies and all that other stuff.
It
So
is antiquated.
Carol's not the only one who's going to push back on that, by the way. So just to let you know, but And I haven't heard from her, but I've heard from some of the gentlemen and some of the, you know,
That's not what
folks,
it is.
change is always hard to accept. When you start changing something that you've been comfortable in doing with year, when I can take a big map and put it on the table, and look at this house and look at this map.
Okay, you're getting to a point that I'm going to bing you.
Okay.
Just like I did Amy. So, is there anything that you haven't shared that you want to get on the table?
Real
that,
quick, boss, I'll just
yep.
go over, we continue with our 24 hours of recertification every year. Still reviewing the town code for any changes. We've started to update our presence on the website through David. He can talk to you about that if he wishes, and I'll cut it short right there.
All right.
I don't want to get binged.
The code,
You wanna
the
go?
code issues, Tom, that you were talking about, are those mostly coming into the town from residents, or are they from town
Business.
employees going out and identifying?
Code enforcement issues?
Yes.
Residents calling us.
Residents calling in.
That's correct. Residents calling us. Residents that have the problems. And as I said, the squeaky wheel gets the grease more often.
Is it typically a neighbor noticing something going on and calling and saying, hey, this guy's blah, 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 blah?
That happens quite a bit, Andy, but I'm not going to say it's typical. It's just part of the equation.
Yeah.
It is, but it happens quite a bit. You're right to that point. Yeah. Okay?
And so while the 406 that could equal like 2x the phone calls because if you get a neighborhood, especially with the grass, you might get 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 neighbors calling in. So I mean, and so every time you get one of those phone calls, it isn't, yes, that's been reported. Of course, they have their spin that they want to give you and how long it's been and the
Is that-
reasons why. And
Is that number, just quickly, you brought up a good point, is that number, say for instance, there's tall grass down the street?
It's
and
included.
5 neighbors, is that 5
No,
or
one
just
complaint.
one?
One address, one complaint.
One address, okay.
Might be 3 or 4 different phone calls on that
Right,
same
okay,
address.
got it.
We have a few abandoned homes in
Yeah.
Penfield too. They complain about that stuff too. So,
zombie homes.
that's correct, from the zombie article. Yep.
Okay.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good evening, sir. All right, David.
All right. I didn't put it down here, but 2015 also marks 30 years of cable access television.
Oh.
So started back in '85.
Years.
Facility maintenance, this is ongoing, and the staff continues to extend aging equipment as parts become available. We're using the resources of eBay and electronic recycling companies to provide for parts that are no longer available over the shelf. Synergy has made the recommendation to the operations, and we've had discussion with Ann to discontinue the use of some of these older computer systems due to security risks to the network. We've made steps to correct for some of this and to kind of extend the life by using USB drives to transfer files versus having them tied to the network.
Right.
Web video streaming, as you know, in the past we've had success for a number of years using WMV files, but no longer does that really suit the bill when we have Apple devices and other types of devices today that require HLS and HTML5 streaming systems. So we're in the process of testing and moving forward to eliminate the WMV Windows Media file-based stream. The LTO archive. This was a big project that came into late of last year, was installed late of last year, but it provides us the long-term storage of media files to be stored offline, so that takes it off spinning drives for us. This is also an accomplishment due to the high density tape format. It gives us the benefit of a disaster recovery of the materials that we have within this building, that they can be located off-site. Additionally, that again provides length and life expectancy of spinning drives that we do use, so we do not have to shelve new drives to continue to be successful with the products that we're moving. I gotta just mention, I appreciate Ann's help with this, with coordinating that with Synergy as well. Partnerships, continue to collaborate with surrounding government agencies. Present opportunities for facilities and staffing and project support has been imperative. Penfield continues to work with the towns of Arundequoit, Monroe Community Hospital, Monroe County, and most recently, the town of Greece has come forward asking for a collaboration between the town of Penfield and their community to have a joint effort, if you will. discussions are underway to evaluate these resources as far as what resources we have available as well as what they're interested in doing. Communication database, this is one that we recognized late last year that would be beneficial to our operation, and this kind of came out of a discussion through the PR team. So we've built a communication database to allow quicker access to pre-created communications. This new resource will allow for rapid access to template and pre-created information, supporting an increase of online presence. Pre-created content is focused on emergency and heightened awareness messaging, for example, snow and weather type events. Additional topical information will be coming in the latter half of this first quarter for code enforcement, engineering, and other types of construction messages, given that we already are aware of the highway paving that's going to be happening in town. Social media, the town use of social media will continue as an accessory service to enhance the traffic back to the town's recognized website. Additional town accounts have been secured with additional popular services. Once staff is more comfortable with the use of these and effective in their use, they will be turned on and made available for public use.
So what are some of those outlets, Dave?
Well, it's...
The common ones, obviously, Facebook, Twitter.
Those are the ones we're currently using,
Yep.
but we're evaluating through the Pinterest and Photomog and Smogmog. The number of social media sites is well over 300 out there, and we're really trying to sort them out. We did go out and secure a boatload of usernames for them, so we had them secured. The difficulty is the policies just keep changing, procedural of how to upload to them, the benefit, and we're trying to weigh out what really makes the best use of time to put into it to what's going to get a return on it. So trying to vet that out and making sure that we have a proper workflow. So as we go forward, in discussions with yourselves as to what makes the most sense and is going to have the greatest value in return. For the website, we've been doing one-on-one site page reviews. The review is underway with each of the departments to identify the needs for improving site information, user experiences, and ways to aid the town departments. Additionally, the PR team is actively reviewing the site based on visitor experience and is identifying navigation and content opportunities. These active projects will identify the required areas for attention in 2015. Additionally to that is that when we were recognized by the state for the website, that report also provided a layer of information to us that we have some weaknesses and where we could also try to improve, and we're building that in as we're doing our eval.
Good.
Document management system, a DMS, for use by the town. We wish to evaluate systems, opportunities, and cost for said system. The DMS would allow for creating and managing of all town documents and allow for an increased staff efficiency, reduce queue time, minimize duplication, reduce storage, and ultimately reduce expense. The automation process would reduce town staff time, share information with both internal, external, and websites. This one here is an element that I'm not sure how many may be familiar with, document management systems, but it really comes into giving the user a template-driven form to build their documents and recover them. And the idea is that through permission processes, these documents then could be approved and also made available online without the interaction of another department to be involved with that. So we have reduced the layers, if you will, for documents to get online. Additionally, that also allows us an opportunity, once documents are available online, a system would be able to provide that information to a visitor in whichever format they wish. So if that's a Word doc, if they want it in Word, if they want a text, they want an HTML, they want a PDF, they'd have the ability to create that document as such. Personnel. 2014, we did lose a part-time member of our staff. We decided not to fill that position and evaluate the tasks to properly advertise for a position possibly in 2015. We do recognize that night coverage responsibilities has risen with meeting quantities increasing as well as the length of the meetings have increased. As part of the department's succession planning, fulfilling this position would be strongly recommended. At this time, it's just Brian and myself who are on the primary production side. Mr. Townsend is part-time, but in the absence of Brian or I, we have to double fill there, or if somebody was to get sick, it kind of leaves us a little vulnerable for transparency.
I'm sorry, is Mary still around, or?
Mary was one of our contractors. One of
Okay.
the success stories in 2014, also with the new system that we did put in, we also went to a single-person operation. And by doing so, we've reduced our costs and the overhead for operations. So we no longer have a nightly use for contractors for meeting coverage.
Okay.
We use them for special events.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the next time opportunity you might see is Memorial Day, for instance, type of thing.
Yep, okay.
Expense and capital funding. Wish to continue the discussion with yourselves regarding the distribution system for both web and cable system for media. And we initiated that conversation in 2013. I know it's been an active discussion, but we need to continue that. Production services, I see no change. Distribution systems to the web and cable, the replacement of those, as I just stated. Website software upgrades, plugins, third-party code support, and hosting is the common expenses there, and those would be as needed throughout the year. Specialized support, we don't see any change in the near future. Specialized training, production staff continue to participate with Society of Broadcasting Engineering meetings held here in Rochester. And production staff would like to look into engineering certificates through the SBE for the trade that we have. That is also an element that we're looking at for any hiring of additional staff, that they would lend to having some format to expected standards for positions.
Kind of minimum requirements, if you will.
Yes, sir. Continue cross-training department administrative staff to support evening productions. Amy's been very good with our part-time individual leaving to pick up some of those areas and has been receptive to training. Of course, when we've done that, we've also moved her away from some of her administration tasks. So as much as it's been good, it's also allowed us to slip behind in some of those other areas. Who the major departments that we work with all the departments, and we work with them from AV and website. So if that's a presentation in the auditorium, PA system needs, or other. Successes for 2014, town website was recognized by See Through New York's local government website report card, receiving a B and listed second in the state. Completed the first year with the videographers, without the videographers, with the new system. Continue to cross-train Amy, as I had just stated. PenfieldRec.org, we initiated an e-news system for them. Penfield.org, we improved the page navigation. We continue to clean out unnecessary pages and reduce. The one thing that we have found throughout the site, we have a little over 900 pages on the site. And there was a lot of duplication in fractured information, if you will, so we were able to consolidate and reduce that. So we've gotten it down to just about 700, and we wish to get it down to about 300, if you will. And the effort there is really to minimize the navigation and to enhance the user's experience to find information. And as far as the LTO system, it was installed in late half of last year.
Okay. Great. Questions, board comments?
Just a comment or two, Dave. I mean, I know we're short on time, so I won't belabor, and I fully appreciate the work that you and Brian and the team do downstairs, because you interface with all departments, which is unique, because most departments, probably don't have as wide an umbrella as you do. So, that's challenging in itself. But the other thing is that you've been asked to do sort of more with less over the last few years, obviously with equipment and technology purchases, as have other departments, but you're very reliant upon equipment. So as you continue into 2015, there's a lot of information here, but, especially with partnerships or probably new new projects, whether it's the document management system or else, or other stuff, just, I would ask that you continue to keep your priorities on the town board, planning board, and zoning board, and just ensure that, you know, the communications moving between departments and between this board and your office are, you know, at the top of the list. So, I just wanted to kind of, you know, throw that out there as just something to, you know, kind of strive towards into 2015, so.
I like the emphasis on the website and the web in general, because that's where we have been talking about. An emphasis seems to be to utilize for the public, for the transparency. People seem to want to go to the website, they want to get their interaction, their even the Facebook, having notifications of things happening around the town. So it's important. It seems to be the way that what's happening right now in our society. So I appreciate the emphasis on all that.
Other comments?
That's it.
Okay, I think we have an action item to circle back with Dave on a couple of things, so, which I think is, you know, obviously more time than
Sure.
a quick
Right.
review of goals and priorities or accomplishments. So I think we need to get that on the books. So it'll be an action item that we'll take away to get that
Okay.
going. Okay.
I'll just leave you with just a quick tidbit for you. 2013 via tweets, we did 136. 2014, we did 534. So we were averaging a month up to 44 tweets a month. 2014 website visits for Penfield.org was 125,980, averaging 10,000, round numbers 500 a month. And the total pages viewed were 1,238,000.
Wow.
The visit frequency is running we'll round it off, 2.25 individuals come back to the site, and the average pages viewed per visit is 9.6. So we've seen some increased growth in that area. It wavers a little bit throughout the year. We have highs and lows. The only real time that we can work on the servers is 3 a.m. in the morning. That's our low time, so between 3 and 6 is kind of the time when we take things down and have to bring them back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. Okay, we'll take just a 30-second break, and then we'll give everyone an opportunity to get to, you know, from one place to another, and we'll put on different hats. Go from presentation mode to record mode. And we'll get staff up and ready to go. Order at 7:07 p.m. We'll let the minutes reflect that prior to the work session, the board completed the last of the goals and priorities for 2015. We reviewed the Assessor, PR communications, building, zoning, code enforcement, and PCTV. So we'll call this meeting officially to order. We'll let the minutes reflect that the board is here, as well as a number of members of staff and some engaging audience members soon to be heard from. We have the February 11th minutes in front of us. Would entertain a motion of approval of those minutes.
I'll move.
Moved,
Sorry.
seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, seeing none, minutes will stand approved as written. Lisa, thank you. We don't have any updates for our monthly reports. All of our monthly reports are in. So the next time we'll review that will be at our next meeting in March, work session in March. We've have no public hearings tonight. We do have one guest, Southpoint apartment garage proposal. Let Mr. Costello tee that up, and we'll ask our friends from Pastoral Engineering to join us at the table.
Thank you, Tony. Jess Sudol from Pastoral contacted me recently to request a meeting with you for the purpose of reviewing a proposal to add garages to the condominium aspect of the project at Southpoint Cove apartment project. Jess, I'm going to let you, actually, why don't we put it up on the board?
rest of the...
Yeah, once you grab it.
16.
Ask them that. If they come back and do that.
Once you get started.
All right, well, good evening. It's good to see everybody. We are talking about the Building 10 of the Southpoint Cove apartment project, which, as most of you recall, all of you are very familiar with that project, is the one that's kind of out on the point there, which is going to be for sale condominiums. There's 24 of them. As the very detailed plans have progressed for the condo building, it became evident very quickly that the type of units that are being proposed here, and what I mean by that is very high-end, actually demand more than the typical one space per unit of covered parking that we kind of used as a benchmark for the entire project. So we had originally proposed 24 covered parking stalls in the garage, and then an additional 24 cars of surface parking with 10 overflow stalls. What we've changed that to really hasn't changed much. Is just we've swapped out those surface parking areas with garages. So now there's 24 in the building and then 24 garages outside, so that everybody still continues to have 2 spaces per unit. It's just 2 covered spaces per unit as opposed to 1 covered and 1 not, still with the same amount of overflow parking. In terms of the aesthetics of the garages themselves, this is an elevation of what they look like. They're far more elaborate, I would say, than a typical garage that you might find on a multifamily project. They do have, various architectural elements. They actually have stone on them. They have these features, or cupolas, or whatever you want to call them, on the actual roof line themselves. And then the back sides of the garages even have false doors on them. So we don't have a situation where we have the back of a garage which is just a blank wall. So, they're obviously single-story structures, serving the various people within the building itself. Because we're building them on areas previously designated for surface parking, there's no additional stormwater runoff, there's no additional environmental impact, there's really not even any changes to the grading or utilities. We're essentially just putting a building on once was originally designed to be pavement areas. And again, the change stems from basically the various consultants, the experts in condominium high-end projects, who essentially said to improve the marketability and success of the project, you really should provide 2 covered spaces per unit, so that husband and wife each get to have their car protected from the elements. So that has what.
I don't know about your house, but my wife's car is always in the garage.
Mine's outside. No, mine's the exact same way.
Just want to
A lot
make
of
sure.
guys trucking across the parking lot.
They
there.
tell us something,
That's how I got to 40 years of marriage with the same lovely woman.
But both get to be covered.
That's correct.
So show us again, how's this laid out there? Where are the garages that
This
that
is
are
a-
right connected? versus
Well, there's
not?
actually 24 are within the footprint of the building. They're actually down in the basement, and then there's 10 more here, and then 14 here on either side of the building.
Jess, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. I think this is a good idea. I do agree that if the desire is to have higher end condos for purchase, you need to have the amenities that go with it. I do agree with the garages, the aesthetics of the garage. Hopefully, maybe at some point, we can get something a little bit more than kind of a black and white version of it.
Sure, I can color these up.
Yeah, and, again, my concern, I've been very consistent throughout this entire project, is to keep the look with a nautical theme. I know the cupolas are consistent with all the buildings that are going on in that development, but I would ask that, designs are in a nautical theme, in the spirit of the nautical theme that we've talked about throughout the entire project, since it's down by the water. So I support the indoor parking. I do think that it's an amenity that would be expected for higher end condos down by the water, certainly given the weather that we experience here in Rochester, New York. So
Thank you.
I support it.
Is there another area for storage, or could they use these outdoor garages for?
Well, the
storage?
units themselves are quite large and have a lot more storage than, let's say, an apartment would. With that said, if a certain person only had one vehicle and bought a condo, I certainly would expect that they might store something in here, maybe a boat or something, I don't know.
Right.
But there's nothing that prohibits storage from it within the garage.
Is each garage individually sealed?
Yes. Yeah, it's not like you get in and can see across.
Right.
It's got its own little,
So it's an individual garage.
Yep.
These are
Essentially.
nice garage.
How does the bottom one where the 10 units interact, how are you showing 10 units on that with the 6 that you're showing now?
well, this
That's
is
the
the
14,
14 here. Yeah,
right.
this is actually the back of the building. Dark, I asked the same
The
question,
full
like,
doors?
this makes no sense to me, why are...
Yep. Okay, I get it now.
Mhm.
Kaz, given that this is essentially adding a structure, is
They will
this
need to go for a site
go
plan
for a-
review from you.
Right.
Go for a public hearing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell us, is the price point still the same? What are they?
Yes.
Or this is not, is adding to it, I
They're-
guess?
They're definitely not going down. They're still talking around starting in the high 4s to over $500,000.
Okay. All right, so wanted to get the board's reaction to this, and if everybody is comfortable with moving forward, we'll get them on the docket and get that probably heard. Probably not the end of March. I don't know, we'd have to back, it might have to be that first meeting in April, but we'll let Mr. Costello and the town clerk's office work through the actual dates and legal advertising and things like that. So we'll move forward with the hearing. Kaz, anything else that we haven't put on the table that we should be aware of?
No, I think the comment that you made regarding the fact that it's on impervious surface kind of mitigates potential impacts, so we'd have to go back and look at the findings and all that we approved the project on, but
Right.
the fact that we're not disturbing anything that's not going to be disturbed already
Right.
is positive.
All right. Board, any other questions or comments?
Nope.
Jess, anything for us?
No, thank you very
All right.
much.
Always remember, her car in the garage.
Yes,
Okay.
believe me.
All right, good.
I'm the same boat. Work on
All
the
right.
garage, the kid stuff next to it, my stuff out.
Right on. All right, good. You passed the test. All right, we'll move next into our action items on finance. The first item is LWRP, kind of an update. I think the last time we spoke, we were awaiting 239M. I know that there were a couple of other miscellaneous items that you were working on, so if we get an update as to your next steps.
Thank you. I did receive the 239 review the day before yesterday. I did send it to you. I don't know if you all had a chance to look at it, but there were actually, there was a 3-page report, and the comments were really pertaining to the actual document in terms of content. There was nothing critical in terms of, various sections of it, but there were some good comments that came out of it. I have incorporated each and every one of the comments into the document itself. There were things such as we had made reference to the wetlands, the Ellison Park wetlands, and the county now wants that referred to as Lucian Warren Park. That's been changed throughout the entire document to reflect that with all the mapping. So all the comments that were brought in by the county have all been incorporated. I have also prepared documentation, the resolutions, the negative deck, and some other resolutions for Dick Horowitz. The one thing I want to remind you of is when we held the public hearing in January, an addendum to that document was a proposed local law for our local consistency requirement. We already have one on the books now from 1991. This is going to update that one. That would also be a resolution to adopt that local law as part of the process. Dick Horowitz has been working on that for the last few days. So I'm assuming that we'll get all the documents in for this Friday. Let anybody review them if they need to. He has those documents right now. He's going through each one of those. So I think we're in pretty good shape. As I say, this was the document we're really waiting for before you could make the final decision. So I think we're there.
Okay, so resolution
Yes.
realistically on the 4th?
Yes.
All right,
Yep.
and great, we'll get that, another item behind us.
Very good.
All right, thank you, Kaz, thanks for that update, and thank you for all the efforts, and great job by Mr. Moore for being our being our liaison for that.
Happy to do it.
He was my mentor.
All right.
I had to carry Jim across the finish line.
I know you did.
Got
I know
there.
you did.
Barely made it, but
We're
he
used to
got me
doing
there.
that.
Our next item is Senate zoning revision, Fox Hill Sub, an update, and from our last session, one of the items that we had talked about was pushing this back to the planning board to make sure that we weren't infringing or stepping on anybody as part of the process, and so
That's correct.
you have the ball.
The FedEx met with the planning board on, I believe, February 12th or 13th, last meeting. Mark Valentine went through the entire process as to what we've been wrestling with here in terms of getting them to where they need to be. The board did send back a memo to you dated February 13th, indicating that they did support your thoughts on the matter. They agreed that since the neighbors were in favor of eliminating the sidewalk out onto Watson Road, that they would support that. They do agree that the sidewalks along Watson should be installed in lieu of the sidewalk out to it. They concur with you on the issue of the sidewalk installations up to Lynx Court and to Ashland Rise. They also agree that after reviewing the site plan for Ashland Rise, that it is appropriate to add one more lot onto the Phase 6 of the Fox Hill subdivision to balance out the backyard so that everybody's yard is more consistent in size than they are proposed to be at this point in time, because as you know, as you remember, some of those lots had 2 lots to 1 on them, and now it balances out to 1 on 1. So their memo to you basically supports all of your thoughts regarding the matter from the last board session.
Okay. Board, comfortable with where we are and everything we talked about?
Let's move forward.
Okay,
Good.
so next steps, we'll,
We'll alert the staff and the board, the planning board, that you've supported the process as
Okay.
proposed, and then we will get them started to go through the site plan review process.
and then we'll go through that piece as well. Okay. Everybody's good with that? Anything we missed that we haven't talked about?
Certainly
Those were the 3 main
discussed this
topics.
Several times.
Okay, great. Then we move forward as discussed. All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Paula, do you want to come up? Want to come up for a minute?
Right, our next item then is to talk a little bit about Angus House signage and proposed name change. Paula, welcome.
Thank you.
And Jim, as you're handing things out, I'll let you tee this up in a little bit more detail.
Thank you. Several weeks ago, we met with Vinnie, who indicated that he would like to install a wood burning oven in the Angus house. I think they were trying to change up a little bit their menu and bring in more people.
So they went through the process, they got all their appropriate permits for it, and I don't know if it's in or not yet, but
It is.
it is in.
Well, it's here, it's not installed yet,
Okay.
Where is it going to be located?
in the bar area.
As you walk in off to the left.
Okay.
Is it just in the parking?
Well, I mean, you got the bar.
I'm just
area.
curious.
It's
No,
next to the bar, yeah.
It's an
before-
oven, it's in the
before you
garage.
get to
It's in the
It's
lounge.
on the left.
It's in the
Oh,
building,
where
yeah.
you-
Yeah, oh, it's in the building,
Across from the
okay.
reception desk?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So the other day, and as you know, we had a discussion with the Catalanos about their concern for the signage that they have on the building. It's not really bringing people to the site as they hoped. We have talked about the idea of a freestanding sign, but they agree, and we probably agree the fact that there's probably not a safe location to put a freestanding sign in the front of their property because of the traffic moving back and forth. So they came to us the other day and asked if they could come to the board to request some additional signage, new signage to reflect the fact that they'd like to change the name of the business from the Angus House to Cha-Cha's. And that, in addition to that, they would like to have two signs on the building versus the one that's normally permitted. There are other businesses in the Four Corners that have 2 signs on the building. The fact that they can't have a freestanding sign is a rationale as to why places like Canandaigua National Bank has 2 signs on it versus 1.
Well, the happy hour open, all that still stays. It's
That
part
does
of the
stay.
signage too.
I did talk to their sign manufacturer today. My question was, could they do something to move the sign to center it over the building, and the larger sign over the building? And they said he really couldn't do it because when they measured, because of the awning on the site, it encroaches into that area and would make it look a little foolish.
Looks
to the
okay.
point where you might even not see the bottom of the sign. I just want to make the board aware of the fact that in addition to you reviewing the sign, because it's in the Historic District, the Historic Preservation Board has to do that, and I'll get you in for the very next meeting, which is, I think, next Thursday night. It's the first Thursday in March.
Yep.
So we'll get you in for next Thursday night on that. I just want to get the board's comfort level on having 2 signs on the property. Just to give you some background information, the building signage allowed for that site is actually 118 square feet. That's based on the fact that the building frontage is 59 feet. Multiply that by 2, that gets you to 118. The 2 signs they're proposing, the sign on the triangular portion of the building is 2.5 by 4, and the other one is 32 square feet, so it comes out to 42.6 square feet, plus or minus in there, so they're quite a bit under what they're permitted by code in terms of what they allowed by our town code. So it's just a function of your thoughts on the issue. I did ask Paula if they are going to remain as the principals of the business. She indicated that they are. There are no other people coming to become operators at that location other than the Catalanos. And it's basically a name change is what's occurring.
Yeah, besides the oven, is there any other changes to the?
The menu will change.
But nothing in the layout,
No, the layout will be the same. We're painting and doing some new artwork, but nothing, no major renovation.
Is the stove, is it going to be working for cooking, or is it more for show?
Oh,
You
no,
walk in-
it's definitely for cooking.
Yeah?
Yes.
'Cause I think you walk in and they're cooking right there next to, as you walk in.
Well,
the
it's
entrance.
kind of like when you go to hibachi and they're cooking in front of you. It's
Right.
more,
Yes,
it's
okay.
it's for prepresentation as well as for cooking.
And I apologize, I just had to step out for 30 seconds. So where would that be located, Paula?
As soon as you walk in the doors,
Okay.
on your left-hand side, there was a small waiting area
Oh,
next
yes,
to the bar.
okay.
So we're going to actually extend the bar out and enclose that area where the oven will be located.
Okay, got it. So it'll be right there as you go in. All right. Sorry, I apologize.
Paula, what kind of menu are
I was
you
just gonna ask,
looking at?
give us your vision.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to obviously be pizza. We're going to do like gourmet burgers and sandwiches. We want to just bring it down a little bit to something that's more affordable for people to come more often instead of, we've kind of become a special occasions place, and that was never our intention. But I think just with the economy and just the price point that we were at with the menu we have, it just became that. So,
So more casual kind of.
yeah, it's not gonna be like a bar where, it's a rowdy hangout place. We still wanna maintain a certain level of elegance, but more casual. Because a lot of people are confused now, if they have to come in suits or, where you don't have to, you can come in jeans. But a lot of people don't think that's the case. So, and the only reason we're changing the name too is because Angus House really puts us into a steakhouse. So if we didn't pick such a narrow name to begin with, we wouldn't have to go through all of that right now.
So would you still offer, some of the same items? So if I
Yeah,
wanted to,
they'll
if
be,
I
like our
wanted to
more
go in and have a
popular
steak.
items will still continue to be on the menu, and we'll still have steak. They'll just be, it won't be as large of a selection.
Sure.
As there is now.
Yeah, but you'll still have a variety, just not
Yes.
quite as large. And then an opportunity to make it more, hopefully, like you say, more affordable. People want to come in more than just stopping in for a birthday, anniversary, what have you.
Absolutely.
More
Got it.
family, more family.
Yes.
Now, are you still thinking about doing the things that you were doing this past summer? You had your Wednesday stakeout and things like that. Are you still going to do those types of things, or is it
We
going to?
haven't, we probably won't do stakeout.
Okay.
Hopefully the patio will be in place by the summertime, and that will draw people in itself to have the outdoor seating. But I think the wood-fired oven itself will draw a lot of people in, even in the summertime, because we'll be able to sit outside.
Right, got it. Okay, all right. Board, questions, comments?
Sounds good, looks good.
Will there be like a kids menu?
Yeah, we have kids menu now. We'll
I gotta
continue-
ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're always looking for.
You and I are looking at
We
different
have- We have 10
For a
nieces and
5-year-old and an
nephews.
8-year-old?
I have 10 nieces and nephews, and they're always there, so yes, we are kid-friendly.
I prefer the restaurants without the kids at times, I gotta say.
I do too.
It's not your world anymore.
There's a balance there.
How about takeout?
Yes, we do takeout.
Okay.
And we will continue to do takeout.
Okay.
Great.
Very good.
All right, so the next step really is, I will run this past the Historic Preservation Board. I'll invite you to that meeting for a few minutes. We'll go through that. If everybody's in agreement, I assume the board, from what I'm hearing, is comfortable with the proposal.
And I'll be at that meeting to
And you'll be at that
convey
meeting
the
as well, yeah.
consensus, yeah.
All right.
Great.
Thank
Okay.
you. We'll
Thank
prepare
you for
some
coming in.
documentation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
terrific, thank you. And
Good luck sticking in there, hanging in
Thank you.
there.
and you're gonna work with Paula to make sure that Paula or someone from her end is there to at least be part of the Historic Preservation Board to
absolutely,
have
yeah.
conversation
Yeah,
or
yeah,
answer any
yeah.
questions or anything like
Yep.
that. Got it.
Absolutely.
Good. Great. Thank you very much.
so much.
Have a great
I'll
evening.
talk to you this
Okay.
week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to review of bids for printing brochures. And I said to my friend Mr. Bilo, and he said he would buy me a cup of coffee if I championed it on his behalf. So as everybody received from Linan, the rundown on our brochure, we did have 2 bidders that came in. Provided bids for not only the primary bid, but all of the various alternatives, and the alternatives take into account, if in fact we have additional pages or additional pieces as part of that. The two folks that bid, Penny Lane Printing and Kenyon Press Inc. And we found that Kenyon Press Inc., not only were they the highest, but they didn't meet all of the specifications. And the Penny Lane Printing did in fact meet all the specifications. They came in at the lowest bid by several $1,000s overall. And the recommendation from staff back to the board is that we award the contract to Penny Lane. They currently do the printing.
I was gonna say, they sound familiar.
Currently do the printing for us and have for the last couple of years, and we have been very satisfied with the work that they've provided. And so the staff recommends to the board that we in fact have them do that work again for the next couple.
And this will be, is already included in the 2015 budget?
That is correct.
Allotted for this?
That is correct. Okay. So it would take into account our 3 brochures, the one here April, then October, and then December.
Okay.
In
Good.
that frame. Okay? All right, so we're okay with that. The next item on the agenda is to review. We had talked about a proposed butterfly Birdway Beltway. Garden. Thank you. I'm hoping there was a G. There was a G in it. So this is as the board is aware, we've received a request to take a look at some different items to recognize a former supervisor. We went out and asked Bruce Soretsky, our landscape architect, to put some things together for us. He has come back with this draft, essentially starting to take current LaSalle's landing park and from there to add some features to that park, take into account similar to out back here we have the Don Mack. Hey guys. If you need to chat, take it out in consideration of everybody. Thank you. Out back we had the Don Mack garden, and to recognize former supervisor. The proposal here would be to recognize former supervisor Irene Gossen. Certainly some other enhancements Mr. Costello has been working on this boat launch that he's currently got a permit in for DEC. We've talked about doing some expanded parking there, and then down the road, some possible facilities. But tonight, really just taking a look at this idea for this Beltway, Birdway garden overall.
What, yeah, because this diagram looks like more of a 5-year plan or something along those
Yeah, when we get
lines,
into
so-
the facilities, the
Right.
restroom facilities, and like I say, really, we'd be looking at this component here, which this is a blow-up of that.
So what's the, what would be the financial cost to the town?
Well, so that's a discussion that I think the board, has to have. If we take a look at the Don Mack project that we did, there was fundraising that was done for that. Town staff provided labor to install that, but the materials and everything, part of that was part of a fundraising. And so one of the things that I think that we have to do from a consistency standpoint is if we were to embark on that, do the same type of thing. I'd asked Mr. Soretsky to rough up, an estimate for that garden, just to give us a sense of what we would be looking at overall. And so by way of just, the plant materials, and not getting into all the other amenities and things like that, but for the garden concept, we're looking at, something in the neighborhood of about $25,000. So that would be for the walkways, that would be for the plantings, and everything associated with that. And so again, that would not include the labor, but it would include, the plant materials. And then, he broke down recommendation, associated, with that. So that would be the proposal that would be on the table. And then he certainly gave us a list on here of all of the different plants that would be needed, necessary, and what have you. So if the board has some interest in this concept, in either some modifications to this concept, either less, more, we certainly can take a look at that. And then once we feel comfortable with a particular approach, then would look to go back to the folks that presented the petition to say that this is something that has been worked up. The skin in the game, consistent with what we've done in other areas, is X dollars, and are you willing to support that and start some type of fundraising, again, similar to what was done for the Don Mack Garden out back here.
I was thinking, think about Jim, I was thinking about, I know there's not a lot of grant out there anymore, but on waterfronts, there are grant opportunities, and I wondered if anything like this could, enhancement of a park on the bay.
Yes, and you could do it through the LWRP, ironically, as we're talking about that, but you could also do it through the Parks Department. The state Parks and Recreation has various grants for this type of thing as well.
Because that could be an opportunity too, along with fundraising, if we could get a group together that wants to fundraise, and then we put in, that could be an opportunity to look into.
So we can certainly take a look at that. I guess initially tonight, the idea of this area and developing this area, especially here where it's sensitive. So when Bruce took a look at it, Bruce took a look at the limits of the wetlands, the 100-foot buffer, those things that are permitted within that area. This is the concept that he came up with, and believes, based on his work and what have you with DEC, that what's being proposed in there would not violate any sensitive nature sensitive activity in and around either wetland or buffer area of the wetland.
Did he ask anything about, does he know about butterflies' ability to survive around that area? I just had this vision of something really down at you want to lunch on them or something, you know, you want to make sure it's an environment that is butterfly friendly. It's right there on the water, and you know, you got a lot of those seabirds and so on like that. I don't know.
So if you take a look at the presentation that Bruce, in conjunction with, and I'm not going to have his name from the Seneca Park Zoo, as part of our environmental series that we did, one of the things that they've talked about is development of these butterfly birdway beltways throughout the entire county, some on water, some not on water. And so what they're trying to do and establish is, you know, to put in the species of plants, shrubs, small bushes. And the idea is to attract, you know, things like monarch and many of the very popular species. To kind of, you know, enhance that area, and then to make this area more, you know, even more so destination. Today it's typically destination for canoe and kayak launch. You know, the future would be, certainly you could come, you know, to this area for the garden. You could come to this area here for some amenities with some picnic tables, camp stoves and things. So there would be restroom facilities. You'd have an area that would be kind of a play area where the grass would be cut and could be used by families to throw a frisbee, what have you. Ultimately, you'll see a fence being proposed to kind of separate that area with some additional plantings to help buffer that from Empire Boulevard.
But the sea life, it can be, it'll agree with this new.
Well,
I mean, I think it would really enhance that area, you know, we want to see that kind of thing done, you know? We had talked at one point about having, like, the overlook or something. I think it was Dick Freitas back in the day was talking about ideas of, more like a nature conservancy.
So as you see through here, here's a series of boardwalks, you know, that comes out, you know, to an area out here. So I mean, that would be, you know, a component that down the road you might, you know, elect to put in. We did receive a grant for boardwalks, if you recall, that was in conjunction with the town of Arundecoit, and that just didn't ultimately work out because there had to be skin in the game from the respective communities, and you know, in conversations with Arundecoit at the time, they just weren't able to, you know, participate, and we couldn't go it alone. So we turned back that grant, and Mr. Costello, in his usual good fashion, basically was looking for, you know, keeping it at least alive and available, so that you know, we wanted to do it. We thought it was a good idea, just couldn't get it done at this point, but certainly down the road had some interest.
So this spot here, was there ever anything besides a play area envisioned for that one end?
No.
So he's not like taking a plan and putting it over another plan?
No, we had a clean slate. I mean, again, the only thing we had was a parking lot and a kayak and canoe launch. That was really the only thing that, I mean, there's been a lot of ideas, you know, and thoughts as to what might go there. But, you know, the thinking is, you know, based on the petition we received, taking a look at this area, this seemed to be a logical fit for that.
I don't know, it's one that I would think you want to take it back. I would support you taking it back to the group that envisioned it and seeing how they would like to deal with it, as finding the price and everything. Plus, you know, if we were going to do this, there'd also be the cost of whatever kind of plaque or whatever kind of commemoration to label what they want it labeled. That'd be a cost as well. This isn't an inexpensive project.
No, it could be expensive when everything's laid out with the boardwalk and everything else. I mean, I like the project. I think it's a good faith effort in doing something nice in that park and something near the, you know, that particular neighborhood. I know that we as town board members have been talking about a boat launch down in that park for public access to the water. I know Councilman Quinn's mentioned that quite a few times over the last couple of years. So I think that I think it's a good step forward in moving in the direction of making this vision actually come to fruition. So I support moving it forward.
Okay, we'll follow up, with a letter, back with some details, and then certainly can talk about, what some of the next steps are by way of, some fundraising by the interested group that submitted the petition. We can also talk about and take a look at, what, if any, grants might be available down there as well, and see what we can put into motion. So,
Great.
okay. All right, guys, thank you. That takes us out of our action items, takes us down into our information items, and our first item up is request of extension of hours of Jeremiah's outdoor dining area. And then I would ask our friends from Jeremiah's, now's the time to come forward and if you want to be part of the discussion.
Yeah. Jeff and Julie, why don't you come over here and sit with us for a few minutes?
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Jeff and Julie had talked to Tony and I a while back about the possibility of coming in and asking for an extension of hours on the patio area. We went through the last meeting, briefly talked about it. The board had requested that they look at not only the original resolution, not only the second resolution, which extended the hours, but the original resolution, just to see what the wording was related to an appropriate time frame to come back before you to request the extension. And I think everybody's got a copy of that resolution. They set that out actually the night of the meeting last time out. And I think your intent is to try and extend those hours this year if you can.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yeah, what's that mean, extending it till, how long on each night are you speaking
1 a.m.
1 a.m.
about? On every night, or just the weekend, or?
Yes, every night.
I remember the day when I could go out till 1 a.m. So do I. Can't do that anymore. So the question is the board comfortable setting a public hearing to get input as to viability of staying open till 1 a.m.?
I mean, I think, as we've spoken, and so we'll just make sure we put all the cards on the table. Certainly, one of the things that we talked about is that, we had a very short period of time from when the area was open, and we did experience a few neighborhood calls, specifically around the time of Sunday football games, and it was typically when maybe a team scored or there was some exciting play that took place. We certainly, within the resolution, there was nothing, that was, specifically detailed that said that, there was no specific date in the resolution, if I recall correctly. I mean, some of the things that we did talk about was going through a full season to kind of get a sense of what that was, but that was not specifically into the resolution. I don't have a problem with holding a public hearing to get the reaction from neighbors, but certainly don't be surprised that you get neighbors coming out raising a concern about some of the noise that they did hear, and so this board, and so as you understand, this board will listen to both sides, both arguments, and then render a decision from there. But there is no guarantee that those hours will be extended. So I just want to make sure all those cards are on the table as we move forward. You'll have an opportunity at the public hearing, certainly to, give your rationale, how you've controlled, how you've managed, what your intent is to, continue to control and manage. And then certainly residents that either have registered some concerns or others, may come forward to talk about why, things should be either left as they are or some other things that are done differently. So, I mean, that's part of that process. And I just, while we're willing to certainly hear, there are no 100% guarantees that anything will change.
I
So-
did
that's
receive
yeah.
a request from Julie to send her all the complaints that we've received from day
Yep.
one. I have done that. You received them all.
Yep.
And as I say, the majority, as you said, we did get the calls during the fall, when the bills were good there for a few weeks. But really, the majority of the complaints that I think you received had to do with reference pickup more than anything else.
Yeah, good
Which
morning.
we took care of that.
Yeah.
I don't think we've had any problems since then.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back and take a look at my email log, but it seems like it's been at least 4 to 6 weeks, since we've heard anything by way of that. And I know that you, Jeff, you did indicate that you had conversations with your waste hauler. I think the other thing that we weren't 100% sure of is, was it truly your waste hauler?
Yeah, that's could be it could be a possibility.
Right. I mean,
I'm not.
you know, there's a lot of dynamics in that area.
Sure.
You're not the only game in town, and
Right.
was it somebody else? But you did address your hauler and at least have an understanding with them to pick up after a certain point of time.
Is that hauler going to be the same one that's taking care of Panera to that whole area there?
Not sure. I
I'm
don't know.
not sure either.
I mean, it'd be good if you had the same one, and they came
Yeah.
at the same time, but then just envision all this, that'd be horrible.
Well, they have
The same
contracts.
story happened again, always.
Corporate has contracts, as a member is a little better. So I don't know who they are yet. We have not had any complaints. As you remember, unlike Jeff's resolution, because of the concerns we had when you did Panera and when you did Chipotle, there was wording in that resolution, in both those resolutions, identifying the hours that pickups are permitted. And if anything happens, we have to get that resolved. So far, we haven't had any complaints yet, but we're always watching.
And, I think in fairness to Jeremiah's in the situation with some of the complaints during particular sporting events, those weren't long types of noises.
Or late at night.
It's the Buffalo Bills score with 57 seconds left against whatever team it was, and there's this big roar. I mean, I get that from my neighbor who watches the game in his garage when he's doing some woodworking out there. So, it's not a prolonged event like a carnival would be all night long where you're hearing noises. So I think we need to take that into perspective when we look at these things, and in fairness to the applicant, just to understand that it's not a prolonged event. It's a big rod, and 13 seconds later, it's not there anymore.
Are you thinking of doing anything more to the patio this season that would have any kind of impact? What it is?
But we're thinking about doing some, maybe an overhang for, to stop the weather, because we really don't have any protection from rain or anything, so that's really the biggest thing. But, as far as the late night, there were no calls for late night, and, we do everything we can to try and make our neighbors happy. They are our customers, so if we upset them, it doesn't really do any good for us. But I think there was a picture painted before we opened that Jeremiah's was a dive bar, and we were going to have fights. There were going to be bottles smashed everywhere, profanity, and I think that we have proven that that's not the case. And I think that if you look at the complaints, they come from a select few. And I think that we all knew, or I did, that when I left, that those people, no matter what happened, were going to write letters and complain. So the fact that we had no complaints at night, I'm very happy about that. As far as the daytime stuff, I really don't have an answer for that. To tell someone not to cheer for the Bills scoring, I don't really have an answer for that. I don't think it's after 15 years of losing, maybe they'll start winning, and that maybe it won't be a problem. But it doesn't seem like it's ever been a long, prolonged sound problem.
Well, and to Jeff's point, probably all of us have been to Jeremiah's once or twice. I know I've been there a handful of times, and it is a very diverse crowd. There's no doubt about it. From some college kids maybe back on break, or St. John Fisher Nazareth kids, to families such as mine, to older adults that are there eating.
Like Tony?
Like Tony. So you do get a lot of crowds, and I'm actually amazed. I'm actually amazed at how family oriented it really is. I didn't think it was going to be that family oriented, but the times that we've gone to dinner there, and even my wife and I went there without the kids one time, it was more families than not.
Our food alcohol ratio is 75% food, 25% alcohol. So it's clearly not a bar. It's the highest food ratio of all 3 of our restaurants.
Yeah.
So we're real happy about having the families come in. It's great.
Like to
We
eat
like it.
Burgers and wings.
Yeah.
Okay. So next steps, we're going to do a resolution calling for a public hearing. We'll let you, as we said in a previous application, let you and the town clerk work through the legal advertising deadline dates that we have to meet, and we'll get that on the agenda, as soon as we can, with legal requirements. So, okay.
Very good.
Good. Anything else we should be aware of, Jim?
No, the only thing that Jeff and I have been working on is his intent in the springtime, when it gets a little warmer out there, is to totally enclose the dumpster area, because they are using that for some storage and outdoor cooking at times. So he's indicated he would like to enclose that, and I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then Jeff, you'd mentioned, and certainly this will be vetted out in more detail at the public hearing. But what did you have in mind by way of some weather covering for the patio?
We are just talking about maybe, we've got some pricing on just an awning that'll extend. It'll be retractable. So we're kind of just poking around right now on what the prices would be, and it's pricey, but obviously we'd send it over to you guys to take a look.
I was gonna say, anything at the hearing you could present, visually would be helpful, just for
Sure.
people,
You know,
so we can avoid-
One hearing would be helpful too.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would suggest just trying to line it all up at the same
Okay.
time.
Yes,
We can do that.
The other thing is certainly, any type of, canopy or anything like that certainly has an effect on noise. Probably, to the positive, standpoint, because, it helps keep it, again, contained.
It would be
And
above the speakers, right?
So, but that's something that certainly has a potential to be favorable.
Great.
Even more so than, just being open. So, something I think to at least put on the table as well for discussion. Okay?
Sounds great.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so work with Jim. We'll get a public hearing, and
What's the date?
we'll.
It's like March.
Yeah, it's going to be later now, because we're going to run into advertising deadlines.
It's not April break though, right?
It's going to be April 1st, I think.
That is during
That is
spring break.
spring break.
We can hold it over to
You know,
one more meeting if you
I-
want.
I would suggest it just so that residents
Right.
also.
Yeah, that's an excellent
It's not,
point,
it's
Paul.
not a good call to.
Right, I
to
mean,
do
if you wanna
a
hold
hearing
on, I
during
mean-
School break.
The intent was to try and get you in so that you weren't losing valuable
So it'll be the
time.
15th. It'll be the 15th of April.
Would be better.
I think that works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So whether you file your tax, whether you file your taxes or come to the public hearing,
Actually-
both have the potential to be painful.
Yes. That's right.
Actually, I'm not going to be here on the 1st of April either, so I'd prefer to be here if we're going to have a public hearing on this
Okay.
matter. so.
Well, it's all about you.
Well, somebody's got to listen to it. It might as well be me, I guess.
So it would be Wednesday the 15th.
That's fine.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay?
Good.
Very good.
All right, and then you'll work with the town clerk's office for the resolution.
And I'll be in touch with you.
All right?
Thanks, guys.
Very good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
You too.
All right, our next item is the villas at East Hampton Phase 4.
Yeah, this is an FYI for you. We just received an application in for the final phase of the villas. It's 8 buildings, 32 units. It's the last of all the phases. There are 124 units, I'm sorry, 126 units in that project, and this is the last 32 of the 126. So my intent would be to set a public hearing for April 1st. I anticipate that you're probably not going to get too many people of interest in it, just because it's the last phase. The immediate neighbors may be interested because it doesn't butt up next to them. But other than that, it warrants a public hearing, probably on that date.
Okay? Very good, very good. Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda. Seeing nothing else come before the board, our February 25th work session will stand adjourned at 7:59. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, board. Thank you, Kaz.